Hi, I'm Nikki Stainton. Back in 1975, I was part of a group of young people that felt there really should be a place in Norwich where fantastic theatre, exciting music and exhibitions could happen. It was a can-do time and lots of things were changing. So we decided to start raising support for the idea of an art centre. We had the confidence and the arrogance to think that we could achieve anything. We began by organising one-off events in Norwich, using places like Chancery Hall, the Memorial Hall in Colgate and Chapelfield Gardens. The idea was to build interest, engage support and see what demand was there. Eventually we got the go-ahead to take over an old and very tatty department store called Bywell's, which was on this site in St Benedicts Street. It was in a terrible state of disrepair, but we were able to use the fantastic frontage with big windows that we could use for displays. Volunteers turned up to help. This is me doing my bit. And within weeks, we were able to open in April 1977. We were determined that the place should not be seen as elitist or exclusive and wanted to avoid the connotations of artiness. So we settled our rather enigmatic name of Premises, which is something that we'd been talking about for years. Penny Manning helped out in those early years, designing and making posters to publicise events.
I started in Bywell's, yeah. I believe this is a poster of quite an early event at Bywell's. It was a big old shop which had been kind of gutted. It was on 2 levels, so you'd walk in and then there was kind of like a concrete pit almost, and that's where the bands would play. And the front, as I remember, had a kind of arts and crafts shop in one part, and a little cafe, and various workshop areas. Oh, and a gallery. Although there were a lot of rock and blues and jazz, they also put on a lot of kind of early music, classical music. So the audiences generally were quite varied depending on the event.
During the 22 months that we were in the building, we had some amazing theatre shows and fantastic exhibitions. But sadly, in 1978, the lease was not renewed. Whilst we looked for a new home, we kept busy with activities, concerts, projects across the city, as Penny remembers.
In the interim, when Bywell's was shut and this place was being put together, there was quite a lot of events at the university. This one was at the Gala Ballroom, which is at the top of St Stephen's. Quite a lot at the Freakston Rooms, the Stampson and Hercules. Even Toya Wilcox at St Andrew's Hall. My main memory of those times is that it was a real community feeling, and people just mucking in and doing stuff because it needed to be done, or because they wanted to do it to make other things happen.
Then in 1980 we found a new home, just a short walk from our old home of Bywell's and still on St Benedicts Street, the redundant church of St Swithins. Believe it or not, back then this was the main entrance to the art centre. In those days it was stuck between a butcher's and a second-hand shop, and looking back it was pretty disgusting. Nowadays it's a clean, beautiful building, but back then it needed a lot of work. We moved in on a temporary basis and began a fundraising campaign to turn the building into a permanent centre. Finally, in 1980 we opened, initially still retaining the name Premises. It wasn't until later that the current name, Norwich Arts Centre, was adopted. It was such an amazing time when so many people pulled together to create a fantastic facility, enjoyed by thousands, including young gig goers like Annie Catwoman.
What I really like about Norwich Arts Centre, I think, is the same as a lot of the punters and the bands that come here as well. It's just such an intimate place. It's a great space to see live music. And they come off stage and they mingle with the crowd, and it's just such a thrill when that happens. I'm going to tell you about a few of my favourite gigs here. There have been so many that I'm not going to be able to remember them. You'll be very pleased to hear. But one of the very best ones was, went to see My Bloody Valentine, and I stood here for most of the gig because it was so packed. It was one of those occasions when, while I couldn't see most of it, it was just amazing because it was the whole atmosphere. It was electrically charged, the band were fantastic, and you were that close to them. Most of all though, I usually like to stand somewhere around about here at the front of the stage. Why wouldn't you want to be here? You just have to experience live music, and this is one of the best places to do it, as far as I'm concerned.
Hello, I'm Pasco. I'm the current director at Norwich Arts Centre, and I've probably been dropping in and out of this venue for the last 20 odd years. I used to come up and visit a friend here at university, and we would go around town to different pubs and clubs, and obviously we used to come in here for gigs from time to time. I'd have been one of those young guys dressed in black. Before the days of indie, we just called ourselves alternative, and it was a lot of fun.
There have been some dark days along the way though, and its survival couldn't be taken for granted.
Hi, I'm Pam Reiki. I was the manager here at Norwich Arts Centre in the late 80s through to the 90s. It was a great period. We had some great shows, great events. By the mid-90s, the funding was changing. The Arts Council funded us differently, and we had a couple of difficult years resulting in a small deficit. We also had new board members, and they weren't happy with the financial situation and eventually did close us down. But the public of Norwich were outraged by this. They really stood by us, and they wouldn't take the closure. And within a week we raised £25,000. John Peel, the Radio 1 DJ, was very supportive, put his name behind it and gave us quite a substantial sum of money. We also had a big anonymous donation which really helped the cause, and people were putting money through the letterbox. It was just quite amazing.
Things picked up again after that, and the Arts Centre has gone from strength to strength. A £500,000 lottery grant meant a new entrance and media centre, transforming into the place we see today. Over the years, local promoters have made this the place to go to see new music. The Way Cocker Club in the 1980s, the Wild Club in the 90s, with Howlback, Hum and many others after that. It's given many artists at the start of their career a chance to showcase their work. Bands like Nirvana, Oasis, Coldplay, Muse, and the Manic Street Preachers all played here, and comedians such as Frank Skinner, Jack Dee and Noel Fielding. Remember music fan Annie Catwoman from earlier? She turned promoter as Wombat Wombat, putting on gigs here since the new millennium.
The first gig I was involved in promoting here was 29th of September 1999, and this was the Mighty Magoo. And as you can imagine, it was a really exciting thing to do because it was the first show that I was involved in promoting, and it was a band that I adored then and still adore now. And it was hectic and it was stressful, but it was great. It was here. It was the best place to put it on. Norwich Arts Centre's been going for ages, and I've been coming here for ages, and I'm just really excited that it's still going today. There was a little blip in the 90s when it shut, and that was just like... Even though there's so much history here, it's all about creating history as well. It's about bringing new stuff to Norwich, and that's one of the things that the Arts Centre does the best. It's a passion. This place is just amazing, and I can't get enough of it.
Turn the lights out. Turn the lights out.
feel so proud to have been part of the team that's been responsible for establishing the Norwich Arts Centre. Back in the 1970s, it was hard to imagine the city of Norwich with an arts centre. Now it would be hard to imagine it without one.